All right. Thank you all for sticking around. I know we're heading toward the end of the day here, but just thank you to Brand Innovators for putting on a great event today. Round of applause. So thank you, John. Really happy to be here. I'm joined by esteemed panel, Mike Fisher and Scheiner, Kristina, Shepard, and really here to talk to you guys today about ad innovation, right? How do we go beyond the 30 as an industry? What are some of the unique and interesting things that these guys are all up to, both as publishers and platforms, as well as the work that Mike's doing here within the agency? So I think first off, Mike, we've got the investment innovation team being relatively new, and you kind of spearheading that. Could you tell everybody a little bit about what you're up to and sort of the purpose for it and where it's going?
Yeah, so I lead investment innovation here at GroupM. Thank you, everybody, for coming to our wonderful space. And really, it's the job of the investment team more broadly to help our clients understand the marketplace, help our clients navigate what is becoming a much more holistic, one-to-one, intimate way to reach viewers everywhere on all screens. As people have started to move away from a viewing perspective of appointment-based linear TV to an environment where every impression is measurable, deliverable, actionable, it's become the job of the investment team to really understand not just what is the right supply to be buying, but how should we be buying it? Why are we buying it the ways we're buying it? And then what are we looking to do to measure success against what we buy? And that really spans across planning, buying, and measurement. Leading the investment innovation group, we have the opportunity to really push things forward a little bit. So about a year to a year and a half ago, we took a step back and we said, well, the living room more broadly is changing faster than any other delivery channel. Impressions are becoming digitally delivered. We have the ability to do more than just use that legacy 30-second spot that has been interoperable and accepted everywhere. We, as an industry, have done a great job in building out dynamic personalization, customization in the living room. I'm sure 95% of you who use streaming have seen some sort of engagement ad, click to learn more, colorize this car, some sort of engagement that moves beyond just that 30-second spot. What we're aiming out to do, and two of our partners are lucky enough to be on stage today to talk about this, is really start to standardize these new formats similar to how every media seller accepts a 30-second spot. We believe that every media seller should accept an enhancement onto that spot, and there needs to be standards to driving forward cross-seller acceptance and scale of these ad units.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, and obviously the 30-second spot is sort of the baseline, and advertisers put a lot of time and money into developing those spots. From a NBC standpoint, what are you kind of seeing? What are you guys doing to kind of bring people into a more engaged type of a format?
So being a content company, we always want to start off with a great video. So I hope you enjoyed that. Hello, everybody. So our biggest priority is to make sure that we're delivering the most effective advertising and driving results for our partners, right? And how we think we can really help impact that is by making sure our ad innovations and our ad environment is as compelling as our premium content, because we really want to make sure we have the best user experience. That way they're engaged and we're driving results. This is kind of the foundation of our Prime Pods, as well as that pristine ad environment that you see on Peacock. And we've been doing so much testing and learning. We've been testing for the last 20 quarters with over 500,000 partners and 40 different ad innovations. I think one of the good examples is how when we use Peacock IP in an engagement ad, we're seeing up to 186% interaction rate increases. So the results, they're pretty incredible. And we're also working with clients on custom ad innovations. We had actually a GroupM client come to us last year and asked us, how do we develop something that scales reach fast? Well, we already had the Spotlight ad, and we literally plussed it up for them. So we were able to deliver 30 million viewers in 24 hours.
It's impressive. Yeah. I think what was great about kind of seeing all those different executions was that it's not, we think about going beyond and interactivity and all of that. It's not just about an interactive ad, right? But it's how do you bring advertisers into the content, to your point. Like, you want it to be something that that viewers are actually interested in, right? And that's part of it. That's going to help to drive the engagement. It's helping to drive the performance, right?
Absolutely. We're seeing a huge connection with performance and fandom. I think everybody has heard of BravoCon, I hope. Yeah. So BravoCon is interesting because for the last 3 years, 80% of BravoCon attendees have said BravoCon is the best event of their lives. That included their weddings and the births of their children. But how that impacts advertisers is that after seeing content that related back to BravoCon and ad innovations, there was a 74% search engagement lift for those partners.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So Kristina, from a Roku standpoint, what are some of the best executions that you guys have done or are sort of thinking about doing?
Yeah, so we had an early sponsorship business. I think obviously being the platform that powers channels like Peacock, we feel the responsibility to be the tech stack that can enable a lot of these, next gen executions. I think we saw for a long time brands using Roku and just streaming in general as an incremental reach play, and therefore taking 50s and 30s and, using kind of the same spots they were in traditional television. We wanted to enable and allow for advertisers and programmers to be able to kind of deliver on the promise of streaming, which is not just a better viewing experience, but therefore a better ad experience. We find when we poll our streamers, we have 80 million households, and we kind of look across to see what are their viewing preferences, what ad experiences are they leaning into. We see about 40% to 50% of the Gen Z audience expects to interact with their TV screen. So this is a big kind of shift away from traditional TV. And I think even when a lot of what we're actually doing is not just bringing forth a new ad experience, we're also creating a new habit and behavior from the consumer to pick up the remote while they're viewing content and engage and interact with an ad. That's very new and different with the television screen. But as we kind of dove in and did new surveys, we found that, okay, shoppable might seem new to you and something you're not used to doing, but actually raise your hand in the room if you've ever bought a movie on PVOD on Amazon Prime or signed up for Hulu or Peacock through your television screen. That is all something that we've all done in this room. And so you start to realize like that kind of next leap into interactivity isn't as big as maybe people would have thought. So again, we've really focused on how do we break through and allow brands to be invited in, not just to the content experience. We obviously have our own Roku channel, which is a top channel on the platform. And so we do have a lot of immersive experiences within that, all that O&O original programming, but we also are bringing brands into the platform in and of itself. So if we have kind of that power on to off experience, how do we invite brands to interweave their messaging within the entire streamer's journey? So the second they turn on their screen, there it is. And that's kind of the way we're trying to look at more, focus on incubation, which is new pause ads, new executions that all programmers can use that are more interoperable, more scalable, and then kind of testing out these new platform-specific executions that can add more creativity over time.
Yeah, and I think it's really good that both Kristina and Ann gave examples of what we've done with them. I think, when we talk about this ad format, ad innovation accelerator, new ad formats, we don't foresee it being one size fits all. We don't want to have a set of templates that just work for everybody across everybody. We want that to be part of it, but we don't want it to be all of it. We still want to let Roku do what works best inside of a Roku environment with things like Roku City and others. We want NBC to do what works best inside of the NBC environment with the Peacock takeovers and sponsorships and branded integrations. Those are all part of a larger package that we believe we need to be bringing to our clients to leverage the power of that screen, both immediately and ongoing. So when we started to bring together this group in partnership, we were very clear we're not going to force any sort of standards on these people to accept. A great example is with pause ads, right? Everybody can build a pause ad. How that pause ad gets built shouldn't matter to me and shouldn't matter to my clients as long as to the viewer it looks the same. And there's a standard set of measurability and actionability that comes from that pause ad so that to the viewer and to the brand, it seems like it's interoperable, but there's a lot of work behind the scenes that is very different inside of Roku's environment and NBC's environment.
And that's what I would say just to that point is the way we're working with GroupM most specifically is in those two kind of different content and then platform buckets with the mind of Accelerator program is Ally Bank worked with us and actually did a co-produced new show, Side Hustlers, which we actually premiered here a couple weeks ago. But that was a 5-part series talking about kind of focus on women side hustles and basically almost like a Shark Tank for women, which was really amazing, brought to us by Ally and launched and premiered in International Women's Month. And then Coca-Cola was another example of helping us to launch All Things Food on our home screen, which is a completely immersive experience with a DoorDash integration and more. So I think a lot of the innovations happening between our two groups, and then that kind of like next foray is bringing that interoperability and standardization that the Accelerator program will help with.
And I would just say that that is meant to simplify things, right? In a very non-simple world. And how do we collaborate as an industry, best practices? Can we come up with CTV benchmarks? I think that's part of what I'm excited about when it comes to the Ad Accelerator as well.
Yeah, I think measurement of these new ad formats is going to be very important. I think everybody in here, being brand marketers, understands the value of time spent with their brand, which is great, which is a metric that we've transacted on in these interactive and dynamic ad experiences for years now. I think our goal is to move forward past that, include that, but also include outcome and better understand that if somebody is spending a minute, 2 minutes with the brand, either in an interactive experience on a TV or in some sort of branded takeover, not only what does that do for high-level metrics like brand recall and favorability, but what does that do for actual outcomes, conversions, purchase, site visits, all of those things? That's the type of measurement that we're really looking to unlock as part of this program moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's obviously, if you think about sort of like the path, right? And in order for something to kind of move forward in an industry and get everybody bought in on it, the ability to measure it, right, in a consistent way across partners is sort of first and foremost, right? To continue to unlock those dollars, get people investing more. What are some of the partners that you guys might be working with and different types of measurement that you're looking for, and I don't know, what's been working, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I think, when we launched this program, we launched with our partners who you have up on stage on the media side, because that's where the large amount of volume of these interactive, dynamic, and the more endemic ad formats have been running for years. This isn't new stuff we're trying to bring to market. This is existing things that we're trying to standardize more. You have companies like Curve and Brightline and others who are out there, and those are partners of ours in this initiative, who are really out there continuing to bang the drum on the benefits of these things and make progress with the media sellers to do the necessary integrations to run in these environments. And we continue to work with our existing partners who are powering this, but also look at new partners and opportunities for the media partners who are part of our initiative to join alongside of, to really validate how these formats are resonating in the living room.
Cool. Kristina, how are you, I guess, from your standpoint, looking at some of the legacy measurement partners out there, how do you feel like they're kind of keeping up with the demand and sort of where things are going?
Yeah, I think this program will help because I think there's a lot of greenfield ahead of us of how to measure some of these ad units and ultimately what does success look like. I think there's a lot of legacy understanding of what does success look like in traditional TV or digital for CPA or certain types of core metrics. And I think streaming is still nascent in that regard. And so, in some cases when we have Roku City, we're using a T-Vision, right? So attention is the main success metric that we're looking at. We've seen with interactivity, and there's so much more to do ahead of us, but brand favorability is increased by 30-40% when you make a video interactive, right? So the awareness component happens from sight, sound, and motion, but that favorability, that purchase intent, that driving to almost that mid-funnel is going to happen when a user can actually engage and interact with the brand by going further and becoming more an immersive experience, which again is a great opportunity for streaming because it has the digital infrastructure to target and measure just like digital, but it's on a larger screen in that kind of beautiful sight, sound, and motion capacity. So there's still a lot more, but I think we're trying to triangulate between attention, between purchase intent, and more that mid-funnel. What can these different ad units do to hit brand KPIs ultimately?
And obviously creating ad units that might meet the needs of different parts of the funnel, right?
Exactly. And I think a lot of it also, I mean, Anne, you mentioned best practices. I think that's a huge component of this, right? Because we've learned a lot. We launched shoppability with Walmart almost about 2 years ago. So Walmart actually powers our purchasing, the purchasing power of our shoppability ad units on Roku. And we needed to understand, like, how can we encourage the user, even let the user understand to pick up the remote and press a button and then purchase something on their TV screen. That was a completely new behavior. And we found that breaking the fourth wall, actually kind of bringing that influencer type creative to the TV experience helped, because you actually had the actor prompt the user sitting on their couch to pick up the remote, click it, and kind of, explain the experience there live. We found obviously call to action within the first, few seconds of the ad launching or airing is very important. So there's all these different components. We also found that using the remote drove 10x the engagement of a QR code. So there's all these different best practices, but I think the key is us having that available only within a certain wall of Roku is not helping the industry and the ecosystem. Like, that is the first step. But through this program, we hope to make it much more scalable so that interactivity and shoppability becomes table stakes in the norm in streaming, where it's probably not quite today.
Is there an advantage to sort of being the platform and having the remote where you can kind of help control that user experience and get them sort of feeling it? I know interoperability is sort of like the key here for the growth of everything, but interested to hear a little bit about that from you guys.
I would say we're seeing a little bit of a shift in our strategy, but in the idea of us, having our differentiators for Roku first, and we will incubate, but then the goal is to use kind of some of these differentiators to advantage the whole ecosystem, streaming, and then all programmers on Roku. I mean, if you look at Brightline, they will prompt you, right? If you're NBC and you're on Peacock, you'll see a Roku remote, versus you're on Amazon Fire, you'll see an Amazon Fire remote. So there is that kind of component built into a lot of these interactive partners. But yes, there's probably more that can be done from that regard, because each experience might be slightly different today, but hopefully that changes moving forward.
And from I guess a tipping point of user engagement with interactivity, within ads that you guys are seeing on Peacock, like, at what point did you feel like it got to a point of it being something that really is sort of like scalable and meaningful for a client at driving an outcome for them? Well, or are you still kind of maybe not quite there yet?
No, I think like our results speak for themselves, yeah. Right? We've seen tremendous results. I mentioned the Peacock IP being an engagement ad and lifting that up to 186%. We're seeing other ad innovations on average with really similar results and metrics. So ad partners that are leaning in are seeing 50% increase in search engagement. They're seeing 45% lift in site traffic, 27% lift in store traffic, and 4% lift in return on investment. So, I mean, I think we're seeing the results now. And, you mentioned the pause ed and how do we kind of bring that to the next level. That's something we're already doing with Power Break, and we're customizing that. So I think we're going to start to see, the evolution of some of our current ads as well as some new development.
Cool. I guess, Mike, from subscription fatigue, or, I don't know, I think that's a thing, right? It's like everybody wants you to pay for something, and then we get to this point of, all right, I can't pay for everything. And we're seeing the growth of, of ad-supported streaming, right? Which I think is awesome. And you guys have done a phenomenal job with it at NBC and Peacock. What are your thoughts on, like, does this mean that the, linear TV as we know it is sort of like obsolete, dead, and this is just the pure future?
I'm looking at you, Mike.
I wouldn't say dead, but is it like at what point, do we think that this is like really the full future of just pure on-demand kind of content, ad-supported versus, just traditional TV as we all kind of grew up?
So I'm actually going to have this be a little bit audience participation. So, all right. And I'm going to ask you, I'm going to say a statement. I'm going to ask everybody to raise their hand, but then keep your hand up when I say the next statement. All right. So raise your hand if you've cut the cord. Okay. Look at this. You keep them up. Put down your hand. Okay. Keep your hand up if that means you have YouTube TV, Hulu Live, any of those virtual MVPD services, right? Okay, most of your hands stayed up. You have not cut the cord. All right, you can bring them down now. If you have switched from Comcast, from Charter, from one of these legacy TV services to YouTube TV, Hulu with Live, Philo, Fubo, any of these bundling services, that is not cord cutting. You are still getting in that environment where you're probably watching the most of your content. If you're paying $70 a month for YouTube with live your YouTube TV, you're probably watching a lot of live TV. You're still getting 14 minutes per hour of national ads, 2 minutes of local ads. You're still getting a programmed guide and a programmed content pushed to you. That is not cord cutting. You are getting your TV through a digital distribution platform. That's great. That has a place. So does the on-demand model. It all has a place. What we've done and the way that we think about planning now is we are not planning in a linear national bucket, a local addressable bucket, and a streaming bucket. We're planning with an audience, and we're letting the audience and the type of content that audience deems premium determine how our allocations shape out. Because 3 to 4 years from now, those legacy cable operators that I mentioned, the Comcast, the Charters of the world, will most likely flip a switch and go completely IP as well. And then it's all IP delivered, and every impression is targetable, and every impression is measurable and actionable. And that's the future that we're ultimately building towards. So when we talk about linear erosion, the numbers are overblown because people are still watching the same type of content, the content that NBC is producing, below deck, first run shows that air on broadcast, live sports. All of these things are being consumed everywhere. But once someone's butt's on the couch and they're watching that content, they're watching TV. It doesn't matter how it's getting into their house. Nobody's going to sit there and think, oh, I'm watching this inside of a streaming app. This ad is more valuable to me because I'm paying for this. It's butt on couch, big piece of glass, great creative. That's it. It's TV.
I think that's a good answer, Mike.
Thank you.
I tend to agree with you.
I would just add something that I'm really excited about as far as television is I think we're finally coming to a point where it's full funnel performance vehicle, right? No longer do we have to bifurcate linear and digital. We can bring it together. The magic of the media plan is that you can lean into linear for scale and digital for precision. And then a marketer can look at their holistic media plan and get that full reach component. So we're finally leaning into the benefits of linear and the benefits of digital. And there's still a lot of unduplicated reach, right? My daughter went to college last year and she settled in and she set up her TV and she called me and she realized, she's like, I don't have cable here. She's like, I can't watch Bravo. She knows where her bread is buttered, by the way. So I said, well, I'll get you a Peacock subscription. And that worked for her. There's only 7%.
Hopefully ad supported, right?
Well, is there anything else?
It has to be ad supported in our household.
It's 90% of our distribution, which includes her room.
And me.
But there's only 7% duplication between Bravo on cable and Bravo on Peacock. There's only 11% duplication with NBC Prime on linear and NBC Prime on Peacock as well. So an advertiser is really missing out on a large audience if they're not investing in both linear and digital.
Yeah, it's really important. And I think, one of the biggest things that I think has prevented, maybe the ability to really fully plan, execute across platform ultimately can come down to the measurement, right? So we're certainly in the thick of the measurement wars, right? With Nielsen, kind of reshuffling the deck. You've got Video Amp and iSpot, and from your guys' perspective, I mean, everybody's kind of leaning into from an advertiser perspective, leaning into maybe their own partner. I guess from a GroupM perspective, how are you guys looking at that measurement, right? Because it is important, because to your point, it's like you're watching it on screen in your living room. It's the same. We want to measure it the same. We want to buy it the same and transact on it the same.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to differentiate between measurement and currency. Yeah. Currency is how us as buyers and these guys as sellers choose to validate accounting. That is a binary decision. This is how we will say yes or no, you delivered, and transact on it. That's currency. That's great. There's a lot going on in the space. Where the huge opportunity lies, in my opinion, is the measurement side. And not all currency is measurement. Not all measurement is currency. And not all measurement should be currency. There are secondary and tertiary measurement solutions that are critical for brands to have to make that connection, as Ann said, between branding and performance that aren't necessarily ready today, nor will they be ready for a long time to transact on, but we should be measuring on it. And that's really what the opportunity of a wholly addressable, wholly targetable world that we're building towards ultimately looks like. That if we want to transact and money change hands in one way, that's fine. But at the same time, there are all these other things that get appended onto an impression to validate. Was it on target? Did somebody see this? Did it show up on a TV that was turned on? Did somebody take an outcome after seeing this? These are the types of measurements that are now unlocked in the space. And that's really where we're investing the most amount of time, validating for our clients what's working in this world of better quality measurement, one-to-one or one-to-household measurement.
Yeah, and I would just say we're definitely working with more measurement partners, not on currency, but to your point, but on measurement, Coachava, EDO, Donata, Latitude, depending on what the category is and what the brand objectives are, to get that measurement, point of view.
Where are we at with time? A couple minutes. Anyone? 3 minutes? Great. Thank you. Yeah. I like to one for each of you real quick, and then we'll go to the audience. How far off do you guys think we are from sort of achieving that sort of utopian vision of true interoperability, kind of cross platforms, cross screens, measured the way you want, and
Let you take that
having everybody happy? Where are we?
We're realistic, right? We will never have full interoperability of everything we do, and we don't want that. Our media seller partners have stuff that's very special to them. They have content that's very special to them. They have user data that's very special to them. We're not trying to democratize data and experience across the board, because we want the media partners to be able to maintain what brand marketers like from the media partners and what makes them special. What we're looking for is ease of activation, and how do we make it easier for our clients to grow into a space that is more compelling once you start to look at the data and once you start to look at the capabilities.
Cool.
Cosign.
All right. Nailed it. Any questions from the audience? No? Going once, going twice.
How do we take advantage of this? Oh, that's a great question. I gotta plug GroupM. For GroupM clients, you should talk to your GroupM representatives and tell them you want to do more innovation work with our partners up on stage. And if you're not a GroupM client, talk to your agencies and tell them the same. We think that this rising tide raises all ships in this case, and we want to see more of this happening.
Awesome. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.